Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm thrilled to be having a discussion with the Senior Director of Strategy and Events at Notified, Carol Hanley. Carol started with the organization in 2009, and we're going to cover some of the challenges event managers are experiencing worldwide and how they're solving problems with virtual event technology and services. Carol, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We might as well jump right in, Carol. What do you see the word on the street being these days regarding virtual event and webcasting marketplace? Specific to event managers and professionals, their priorities, and really how we're addressing them.
What we're finding as we speak with a lot of event planners and a lot of event marketers is that over 50% of the groups that we're speaking with is that they're not planning to attend an in-person event in the first half of 22. I think with Omicron, it kind of caught everybody in a bit of a waiting situation, not knowing whether or not they were going to make an in-person plan or have a hybrid event. And so then I think what we're kind of finding from that is that the word on the street is that they want to make sure that in the future we will be returning to in-person events, but that they'll probably always come kind of paired with that virtual option, even if there is a live portion. And then another thing that we're hearing from our customers and the event planners that we're speaking with is maybe when they go back to live, instead of having one large live event, which some people might be planning, a lot of others are thinking about different ways to kind of chop that up, so to speak. So for example, maybe have a live component, but break it into maybe regional experiences. And then we're also hearing from these folks that anything that they were going to be doing with some sort of live component will always be backed up with at least a little bit of a virtual component or a very large virtual component, depending on the type of event and the complexity of the event. And so it sounds to me like what we're hearing around the top priority of these customers is, what is everybody else doing? And now that they're entering maybe that third year of planning between hybrid events and live, is they want to make sure that they're going to be in touch with the audience and what they want to see or what they want to come out of these events with. And then maybe they want to make sure that they're reaching a larger global audience than they were if they were just doing a live event that others might not be able to attend. And so I think that in a few years' time, we're really going to be taking all these conversations between live, virtual, and what we all lovingly call hybrid today. And these will just become events, right? And whether or not it has a live event or a virtual component or a mix of the two, in a few years' time, and perhaps short order, because that's what we're calling these today, is these are just going to be events in general. And then I would say the final thing that we're hearing from the event planners that we're talking to is that as they think about events of the future, they're really starting to get into this concept and discussion around a 365 always on experience. We sometimes call that a community too. And it would be a place where folks can come back time and time again to interact with their audience and like-minded peers and perhaps their colleagues, if it's an SKO, for example, and be able to have a single location that brings this sense of community to their event experience. And it allows them to connect time and time again within that location. And eventually, some of the buzzier, if you will, pieces of that would be to perhaps include elements of commerce and digital commerce in there. We're very used to shopping from Amazon online. And so I think this is going to be a really big topic of conversation in the coming months and into the near future for these events and the event planners.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think people need to kind of ride the wave and see the trends that are happening, and kind of leads into the next question, which is around hybrid events, and what do you see out there that clients are planning and the kind of solutions they're going to be implementing for their events and beyond?
I think as the event planners are looking at their schedule for the rest of the year, they're going to be in a few different groups. One position will be, what are some of the issues I'm facing today that I need to solve for in my 2022 event strategy that maybe was a little bit less effective than I had wished it might be in 2021? And so I think that the event planners, as they come into this year, are saying to themselves, Yeah, last year and in 2020, of course, I was faced with a disparate amount of technology. I might be, using two, three, four, even 10 tools to be able to get what I need out of this event experience. And so it's dizzying, right, to a certain extent to think about the solutions and tools an event planner might need to use on a daily basis in order to bring some of these event pieces together. And they're probably also very conscious of a hybrid event's challenges around venues and health concerns and safety concerns. And so this is going to be an important part of their strategy is to make sure that they're caring and accounting for any of those safety and health concerns that might pop up that we know about today or might be in the future. And I think a third piece that they might be considering a little bit more this year is how to do more with less to get the same sponsor value from those that they might be inviting to be sponsors of their events. And so we probably figured out last year that we were able to host and execute an event maybe with a little bit less budget if you didn't need to consider flying and travel and all the things that come around that live event. But we still need to be able to get the same value and increase ROI. And so when we're talking about these hybrid events, these event planners are going to be looking for tools that can help them solve those problems and make sure that they're going to be able to solve the problems, get past that, but then able to actually execute a very well received event. And so I was looking at an article in martech.org, and they said that there was this very negative impact last year around unnecessary travel. And those that might hold that budget within an organization are going to say, okay, if we were able to actually have an event and not spend that budget, now we're going to be very conscious that the flights and the hotels and everything will have a little bit more scrutiny than ever before. And so they're going to be looking for ways that as Omicron and others shake out, that they can pick up all of these different elements. And so we're noticing that our customers are scheduling virtual SKOs. We've had a big, healthy group of those in the first half of this year scheduled, and it's very virtual. And they're able to think about ways that they can mix events and kind of maybe mix in a couple of smaller gatherings, like we talked about a little earlier, in different cities to be able to get a couple of folks together and have that, connection, that one-to-one experience. And then I think that we have a lot of customers that are looking for ways that they can bring presenters into the events that are maybe not able to travel. And so it's going to be important for them to easily open up some technology and be able to maybe pre-record a presentation and mix that pre-recorded presentation with somebody that's maybe doing an element of a live presentation that day. And they want that to be seamless. And so I think that when they're looking for tools, there's just like this dizzying array of things that they have to think about, and they want to just make it as simple as possible and in one location so that they can kind of open that up, go to one place, and be able to hit all of these key points to have a successful event.
What kind of things does the event market need to do in order to fulfill clients' objectives? Because they're looking at all kinds of things in order to make sure these events go off without a hitch.
Absolutely. I mean, if we had ended at that one question, I think people would be headed for the hills. Like, how am I supposed to possibly be able to bring all of these different elements together? And there are absolutely fantastic ways to do that, Reed, right? So when we talk to customers, we're asking them questions to help them in a few different buckets. And I think what we're hearing for the most part is I really feel like last year I had not only some of the elements that we had before, but maybe it was a little trickier to have the same engagement experience for my on site attendees as my virtual and vice versa. And so event planners are really looking for ways to engage with their audience, but they're not, I think that that's a very buzzy thing to say as well. What they're really going, if you take that one layer deeper, is I want to make sure that the experience for my live event and my virtual event is engaging. Now, some of them might go as far as to say, I want it to be the same. Well, we have to recognize it's simply not ever going to be the same. It's never going to be the same to be virtual and live. but we can make it really fun and really interactive for both audience members. And we can bring elements across the table, right, for both groups. And so what we're seeing customers ask for are ways that they can use recommendation engines for content, easy ways to schedule one-to-one or small session meetings, maybe roundtable meetings with attendees and sponsors and like-minded peers. And so tools that allow them to do these things and kind of easily, I think are hot topics. We're also getting a lot of requests for activities. Last year, we were very interested in activities where a person might be at their computer and looking for a way to keep them entertained and extending the time. And we still hear that. But I think from activities as far as gamification and different ways that folks can earn sponsorship and badges, a lot of our attendees now and event planners are asking for one step beyond. It's an activity that I can do together and have an audience do together virtually. And so you're talking about implementing ways that people might be able to draw on a topic and be able to write on a whiteboard at the same time, or do something to engage in a connected experience either before, during, or after the event. They're asking for ways to collect questions from the audience beforehand and keep that within the event environment itself. And so adding things like a lobby, for example, to a simple webcast is a great way to just bring the virtual and the live audiences in before, ask questions, and then you can really tailor the event to the audience and what they want to hear. And that keeps both audience groups engaged. And then I think finally, we are also hearing that customers are looking for the experience. Another buzzy word, but it's so relevant because we want to make sure that from the creative side, branding and different ways to theme an event help to keep everybody involved and drawn in together. And so you might have an SKO, a sales kickoff, with a very specific theme. Maybe the audience dresses up that day, whether they're at their desks or whether they're live. And, that really brings it together. Our company likes to do this for our own sales kickoff. We might have a theme. And then throughout the day, they might want to post on social media. And it really kind of brings that sense of community together. And I think that those ways make it really fun. You don't have that virtual event fatigue. Everyone's laughing. Maybe there's some virtual swag at home. And it just makes the whole thing really fun and really connected.
You hit the nail on the head. Being able to deliver that experience through content production and communication, but also delivering that full service experience is really key. And as a premier partner, we're always looking for ways to do that. And working with value-added resellers or integrators like us at Silver Creek, how do partners of Notified really fulfill these technology and service demands that are coming at them?
That's a great question. And we really haven't even dived into the service piece of these events yet, right? I think, we could have listed a laundry list of 10 things or more that our customers are asking for. But really having that experience factor, the service factor is so crucial. And while Notified is able to do that for a lot of our customers, whether, we have a global service organization or an extension of our production technology, we can't be all things to everybody. And so having a partner community is so critical for the success of our customers because it allows us to really extend into other industries, verticals, and a global reach that we wouldn't have, without the success of the relationships that we have with partners like you. And I think that aside from global reach, it also helps because we are not all things to all customers. A customer might really want to have a consultative approach or strategy and work on other elements of their marketing plan that's sort of outside our scope. And so it's just really important for customers to be able to offer that to them as well.
Lastly, what kind of advice would you offer event managers when they're kind of starting out planning an event, whether it's virtual or hybrid, and how would you best fulfill or they best fulfill their objectives? Because there's just so many things to think about.
There are, but I think we can do it, right? We have all the experience in the world, and we're really here to make their lives easier. And so when they're just starting out and either the new event planning strategy for the year or in the new role, perhaps with a new organization, there's going to have to be this step back and this look at technology and making sure that as they're looking for a technology or a partner to work with that year, we believe that you could really package the full event lifecycle, the full program lifecycle into one platform. If you really look around and dig under the covers, we know it's out there. And it was really what we intended to do when we had the acquisition of Hub this year, which was no matter the size of the event or the location or the format, being able to have an easy way for an event planner to, for example, go into the platform that they're picking and be able to manage content from their speakers and their sponsors and their own sessions, and being able to easily grade and evaluate the content that's coming in, and looking for easy ways to engage their speakers and their sponsors in the planning process of the event and scheduling and all those different things that come into the beginning part of an event. Have that as a front end tool that will allow your customers to then say, okay, I've got all of this great planning material. Let me go execute the event in that same location. And then, oh, by the way, on top of all the engagement and the experience pieces that I'm able to provide, a really critical part of that strategy advice that I would give is look for something that would allow that customer to then have all of the data that they need to gather to be able to prove the success of their event and be able to glean the insights that they were able to get from the experience of all of the stakeholders, right? Not just your attendees, which are so vital, but what was the experience from the sponsorship side? Would a sponsor want to come back and do an event like that again? How was the experience for the speakers? And have all of that data in one easy location to then report on and gather insights and make plans for the next event and so on and so forth. And I think that that really helps in a lot of ways. And so if you're able to capture all of that information, you can then make sure that you're maximizing your budget. You're being able to, please your speakers and your sponsors. And gosh forbid, if disaster strikes and you had a plan to do a live event using that tool, you could easily flip the switch and add a virtual component or expand the virtual component perhaps that you already had, and be able to do that seamlessly. And so I think if I was to give them one really big tip, it's to really step back and think about the technology stack that they're considering to make sure that you can really do as much as possible in one location and save yourself all that stress of, disparate systems.
You have to be ready to pivot, as we have in the last little while, and prepare for the future. Carol, it's been such a privilege to have you part of the podcast. We really appreciate your time and insights. For me, it was really fantastic. And I just want to thank Silver Creek Media for having me along, and Carol from Notified. And I'm really looking forward to our next podcast. Thank you so much.